She pressed herself behind me in the doorway, grabbed a handful of my shirt, and whispered 3 words directly into my shoulder blade. "You're my boyfriend now." I had known Reese Hartley for 8 months. I had exactly 1 second to decide what to do with that information. The man standing in our hallway was watching me with a particular expression of someone who had expected an empty apartment and gotten a complication instead. He was tall, well put together in the way people are when they want you to notice it, and he had the jawline of a man who had never been told he was wrong about anything and had consequently never updated his worldview. I felt Reese's grip tighten in the back of my shirt. I felt the warmth of her pressed behind me in a doorway that was not especially wide. "Can I help you?" I said. This is the story of what I said next, and everything that happened, because I meant it. My name is James Calloway. I'm 32. I work in logistics coordination for a regional distribution company. I track shipments, manage supplier timelines, and negotiate with people who have very strong feelings about pallets. It is a job that requires patience, precision, and the ability to stay composed when 4 things have gone wrong at the same time and 6 people need to know what you're doing about it. I am good at it. It is not a fascinating conversation topic. I have made peace with this. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor of a building with a functional elevator and a landlord who responds to maintenance requests within 7 business days, which I have come to understand is exceptional. I lived there alone for 2 years. Then I posted a roommate listing. Her name was Reese Hartley. She was 29 and taught introductory pottery at a community arts center 2 bus routes from our building, weekend workshops, evening classes, the occasional private session for someone who had received a ceramics lesson as a gift and wasn't entirely certain how to feel about that. She had responded to my listing with a 3-paragraph email that opened with a brief personal summary, included a bullet-pointed list of her domestic qualities, and closed with the line, "I am aware this is too much for a roommate inquiry. I get nervous and I overwrite. Please consider me anyway." I read it twice before I replied. I told myself that was due diligence. She had one object I had come to think of as entirely hers, an orange water bottle covered in stickers. Not a curated collection, a chaotic one. A cartoon cactus, a national park stamp from somewhere in Utah, a small holographic star, something that might have been the logo of a ceramics supply company she liked. They matched nothing. She carried the bottle everywhere in the apartment, set it on the edge of every surface she occupied, and had once texted me at 11 in the evening from her bedroom to ask if I'd seen it. I had. It was in the bathroom. I had walked it to her door. She was loud in the way people are when they're comfortable, not disruptively, just fully. She left her things in the living room with the confidence of someone who had decided the living room was also her room. She laughed at things she found on her phone and felt obligated to show them to me. She made too much pasta and forgot about it until I labeled the containers and put them in the fridge. I am a man who labels containers. She is a woman who texts about her water bottle at 11 p.m. We had arrived at a functional equilibrium that I had, at some point in the previous 3 months, stopped thinking of as an arrangement and started thinking of as just the way things were. That was the part I had not yet said to anyone out loud. It was a Saturday afternoon in late October. The apartment smelled of the candles she'd been burning since morning. Something sold as cedar that read more like someone describing cedar from memory. She was on the couch in a sweatshirt that had been mine for approximately 2 weeks, doing something on her laptop that she described as finishing a project, and that involved sighing at intervals of about 4 minutes. I was at the kitchen table with a supplier report I had promised myself I would finish by noon, then by 2, and was now renegotiating with myself toward 5. The knock at the door was medium loud. Not urgent. not tentative. The knock of someone who fully expected the door to open. Reese looked up from her laptop. I looked at her. Something moved across her face. Quick, specific. The expression of a person who has just recognized a sound they were hoping not to hear. "Don't answer it," she said. "It's my door. It's our door." "Reese." She closed the laptop. She set the orange water bottle on the coffee table very carefully, the way you place something when you're trying not to make noise. She stood. She crossed the room and positioned herself directly behind me before I had made any decision about the door at all. I opened it. He was tall, poised, and stood in our hallway with the ease of someone accustomed to arriving somewhere and having things organize themselves around him. He looked at me with a slight recalibration, not alarm, just reassessment. He'd been expecting something else. "Is Reese home?" he said. Behind me, in the space between my shoulder and the doorframe, a hand gripped the back of my shirt. Then Reese's voice, barely a breath, aimed directly at my spine. "You're my boyfriend now." 1 second. I have a talent for staying calm when a pallet situation has escalated to a 4-person problem. I applied that talent. "She is," I said. "And you are?" "Connor." The name landed with the weight of a name that had been said in a particular tone many times. "We used to date." "Right," I said. "I did not know this. She's mentioned you." His eyes moved past me, searching. I shifted, not dramatically, just enough to fill the doorframe a little more completely. He refocused on me. "And you're?" "James," I said. "I live here." A pause. His jaw moved once. "She didn't tell me she was seeing anyone." "We keep things relatively private," I said. "I have genuinely poor survival instincts around pottery teachers." This was not a new finding. He said a few more things. Something about a jacket he'd left, plausible, possibly invented. Something about wanting to catch up, which had the particular ring of a sentence rehearsed in a parking lot somewhere between floors 1 and 4. I told him she'd reach out if she wanted to. He said okay with the tone of someone who treats okay as a position to negotiate from. Then he left. I closed the door. Silence. Reese stepped out from behind me and exhaled like a woman who had been holding a single breath for 4.5 minutes. "Okay," she said. "Okay." I said. "Thank you." "Of course." She looked at the door, then at me, then at the door again. Her fingers found the cuff of the sweatshirt, my sweatshirt, and she pulled it over her hands the way she did when she was processing something she hadn't finished yet. "He's been texting," she said. "I stopped responding 2 weeks ago, and he graduated to showing up. Which is," she paused, "very him." "Got it." I panicked. I noticed. Something moved across her face that I couldn't immediately sort. "I'm going to make tea," she said. And she went to the kitchen, and I stood at the door for a moment longer than I needed to. That was not the part I should linger on. The part that mattered came after, and what I found out about myself in the space of it. The reasonable version of what had happened was uncomplicated. She'd panicked. I'd helped. We were done. I was her roommate. She had grabbed my shirt out of immediate necessity. I had responded with adequate competence, and that was the end of it. This was the story I told myself while standing at my kitchen table for the next 40 minutes, with a supplier spreadsheet open in front of me and no memory of anything I'd read. It was not a persuasive story, primarily because I had not needed to think. When I felt her grip the back of my shirt, there was no hesitation, no internal deliberation, no decision made. The answer had simply been present before she finished the sentence. I had gone looking for an explanation for that, and had not found one I was willing to write down in clear language. So instead, I started noticing the things I had been looking at without registering. 3 months ago, she had quietly reorganized the kitchen cupboards to match the system I'd been using before she moved in. She hadn't asked, hadn't mentioned it, just shifted everything one afternoon until it matched. I had noticed at the time and categorized it as considerate and moved on. It was not. I was beginning to understand. Just considerate. She saved me food. Not occasionally. Specifically, she texted ahead when she was ordering something she knew I liked. Asked whether she should get extra. She'd done this 4 times in the last month. The most recent time I'd said I'd already eaten, and she'd ordered extra anyway, and left it in the fridge with a note in handwriting that was slightly too neat for a casual note, in case you get hungry later. I had eaten it at midnight, and not thought about why I was still holding the container after I'd finished. 2 weeks before the door, I had been in the hallway getting something from the closet, when I heard her on the phone in her room. The door was not quite closed. Her voice was the one she used when she was saying something she had been thinking about for a while, something that had been waiting to be said to someone. He's easy to be around. Genuinely, I forget to be anxious when I'm near him. A pause. Then, quietly, no. I don't want to complicate it. I had taken what I needed from the closet and gone to my room and sat on the edge of my bed and looked at nothing in particular for a while. I had not thought about it again. I had not thought about anything else. On the evening after Connor's visit, she was on the couch again, the orange water bottle in its place at the armrest, her laptop open on her knees but the screen dark. I was on the other end of the couch with a book I had not advanced through in 20 minutes. The lamp between us was warm and low. Outside, October was pressing against the windows in the particular cold way it does when it has decided to be serious about it. She said, "He used to do that." I looked up. "Show up," she said. Not because he missed me. Because the uncertainty bothered him. He was fine when everything was his idea. When I wanted something, he didn't. When I had a preference he hadn't expected. The uncertainty was something he needed to resolve. She turned the water bottle slowly in her hands. I was with him for 2 years. By the end, I had gotten very small. I did things in ways that wouldn't inconvenience his certainty. And when I stopped doing that, he was surprised. He's been surprised ever since. She said it without self-pity, the way someone says a thing they have already been through and come out the other side of. "Anyway," she said, "thank you for before. You don't have to, I know I don't have to." She looked at me, held it for a moment. I wanted to. The lamp hummed between us. Somewhere in the building a door closed, and then the quiet came back. I didn't hesitate, I said. She looked at the water bottle. "When you whispered it." I didn't have to think about it. I just went. I set the book down on the cushion beside me, and I've been trying to remember the last time I did something without thinking it through first, and I'm struggling to find an example. I plan things. I label things. I run scenarios. I paused. I didn't run one. I just went with it. She was quiet. "James," she said. "You don't have to. I was on the phone with my friend 2 weeks ago," she said. "You were in the hall. The room shifted. How much did you think I heard?" I said. "Enough," she said quietly. "I knew you were there. I kept talking anyway." She looked at her hands. "I kept talking because I wanted you to hear it, and I was too cowardly to say it to your face, so I just let it happen by accident on purpose." She pressed her lips together. Which is a genuinely embarrassing thing to admit. "Not to me," I said. She looked up. Her eyes ran the familiar calculation, the one she did before saying anything she wasn't certain would land. Then, she stopped calculating and just said it. "The thing is, I moved in here because I needed somewhere to live, and then at some point it stopped being somewhere I was staying and became," she paused, searching, "the place I wanted to come home to." And I knew what that was about before I would let myself say it. Something in my chest shifted, not dramatically, just into a different position than it had been in before. I moved to her end of the couch. Deliberately, not abruptly, I put my hand over hers where it rested on the cushion. "I have been labeling your leftovers," I said, "so you could find them easier." She blinked. "What? You leave food in unlabeled containers and forget about it." "I've been labeling them for 7 months. I told myself it was for the organizational system." I looked at her. It was not for the organizational system. She stared at me. 7 months, give or take. She made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh and wasn't quite anything else. She put her face in her hands. "Oh my God," she said quietly. "We've both been so stupid." Comprehensively, I agreed. She lowered her hands. She was looking at the sweatshirt, my sweatshirt on her arms, and her expression was the one I had never quite seen on her before. Wide open, slightly helpless, and more present than I had ever seen her. I took this because it was on the couch, and I was cold. And then I kept it because it smelled like your laundry detergent. And that, she stopped. That was not a thing I was planning to say out loud. "And yet," I said, "and yet," she said. I moved my hand and held hers properly, the way you hold something you are not planning to give back. She looked at it, then at me. Then she leaned forward on the couch and kissed me. Careful, chosen, the way someone does a thing they have already decided about before they knew they were deciding. The orange water bottle toppled off the armrest and hit the floor. We both stopped. She looked at the water bottle. I looked at the water bottle. She covered her mouth with the back of her hand and started laughing, genuine, full, the exact right key. "That's fine," she said. "That's completely fine." "Completely fine," I confirmed. She picked it up, checked the lid, set it on the cushion beside her. Then she looked at me with the expression of someone who has just located something they had been looking for without admitting they were looking, and she said, "So what do we do now?" I think," I said, "we figure out the rest as we go." She considered this. "Okay," she said. "I can work with that." 3 months later, she had stopped referring to her end of the couch and started calling it just the couch, which I noticed and did not mention because I was still operating under the impression that small things were not significant. I have since revised this. 6 months after that, Connor sent one more text. She showed it to me with the energy of someone presenting evidence they have no emotional investment in anymore. She'd replied with 2 words and a period. She didn't tell me what they were. She didn't need to. A year later, her friend, the one she'd been on the phone with, asked how we finally got together. Reese said she'd hidden behind James when her ex showed up and told him he was her boyfriend. Her friend looked at me and said, "I know," she told me. Then, I told her the week she moved in. I looked at Reese. Reese was looking at the table with the expression of someone who has no plans to confirm or deny anything in the immediate future. 2 years later, when people asked how we met, I told the story about the roommate listing. She told the story about the door. We agreed the door was where it actually started. We disagreed on what I had looked like in that moment. She said calm. I said I had no idea what I was doing. She said there is no difference when you're on the right side of the door. And I told her she was right, and I was keeping that. She said urban planners were impossible. I said I had been labeling her leftovers for 7 months in silence, and she told me I could not keep using that as a discussion ender, and I told her it was an evergreen point, and she laughed, and it was the right key, And that was that. The orange water bottle sits on the kitchen counter now. All the stickers are still on it, still mismatched, still belonging to no coherent collection. She added one last year, a small drawing of a door from a set her pottery students made as a gift. She said she picked that one specifically. I told her she was sentimental. She said I had been labeling leftovers for 7 months, and I let it go. Nothing important had been invented the afternoon she hid behind me. It had simply run out of places to go. What would you have done if someone grabbed your shirt and whispered, "You're my boyfriend now"? And have you ever said something out loud to someone else, hoping the right person was close enough to hear it? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.